A woman watched her bedroom door slowly open on her phone at 3 a.m. while she was 300 miles away on a business trip. And when she called her husband sleeping in that same bed, he didn't answer for 4 minutes. This is one of 3 stories shared online by people who installed security systems to feel safer, then discovered something that made them rip every camera out of their walls. I've spent weeks reading these accounts, cross-referencing details, and what disturbs me most is how similar the patterns are. All 3 people were alone when it started, all 3 ignored early warnings, and all 3 now refuse to ever use smart home technology again. If you've ever felt watched in your own home, you need to hear what they found. Story 1. The MTHO's Yusika Tran installed her Ring doorbell system in April 2023 after someone kept leaving wet footprints on her porch in Boise, Idaho. She was a 29-year-old software developer working from home, living alone for the first time after a bad breakup, proud of her independence, but admittedly nervous at night. The doorbell had motion detection, cloud recording, and a feature that sent alerts to her phone whenever someone approached within 15 feet of her door. For 3 weeks, everything worked perfectly. She even caught the Amazon driver doing a little dance after dropping off a package, which made her smile. Then on a Tuesday night in early May, her phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. with a motion alert. She was in bed reading, already half asleep, and almost ignored it. But she opened the app anyway, and the live feed showed her empty porch under the yellow glow of her outdoor light. Absolutely nothing moving. She rewound the recording to see what triggered the sensor, and for exactly 4 seconds, a shadow moved across the bottom left corner of the frame, too fast to make out details. It looked like someone had walked past her door, just outside the camera's main view, staying in the blind spot deliberately. Jessica told herself it was a neighbor's cat or maybe a raccoon, and she went to sleep, but she locked her bedroom door for the first time in weeks. The next alert came 2 nights later, at 1:03 a.m., same pattern, shadow in the corner, there for only 3 seconds, then gone. This time she got out of bed and looked out her window. Her car was untouched. The street was silent. No one was visible anywhere. She checked the Ring app as event history and noticed something that made her stomach tighten. There had been motion alerts every single night for the past week between midnight and 2 a.m. But she'd slept through all of them because her phone was on Do Not Disturb. The recording showed the same shadow every time, always staying just outside the frame, never fully visible, moving in short bursts. She called the police non-emergency line the next morning, and the dispatcher told her it didn't constitute a crime and suggested she adjust her camera angle. So Jessica ordered a second Ring camera and installed it facing the side of her house where the shadow seemed to come from, creating overlapping coverage. That night, she stayed awake with her phone in her hand, watching both live feeds on split screen, waiting. At 12:38 a.m., the original doorbell camera triggered and the shadow appeared in the corner, but this time she immediately switched to the new side angle camera to catch whoever it was. The side camera showed nothing, just her empty driveway and the neighbor's fence. No person, no animal, no movement at all. She toggled back to the doorbell cam, and the shadow was still there, lingering now, shifting slightly like it was swaying. Jessica's hands started shaking as she realized the shadow wasn't being cast by anything the second camera could see. She watched for 2 more minutes as the shadow slowly stretched across her porch, growing longer and darker, reaching toward her door. Then her doorbell rang. Not the camera's digital chime, the actual physical doorbell inside her house, the mechanical one that hadn't worked in years because it was disconnected. Jessica jumped out of bed and ran to her bedroom door, pressing her ear against it, listening. The doorbell rang again, 3 short bursts, and she heard it echo through her house, impossible and real. She opened the Ring app with trembling fingers, and the live feed showed her porch completely empty now. No shadow, no person, just the yellow light and the welcome mat. But in the bottom corner of the screen, she saw the timestamp was frozen at 12:38 a.m. Even though her phone's clock read 12:43 a.m., the feed was looping. She realized, showing her a recording from 5 minutes ago, not the live view. Someone had accessed her camera system and was feeding her old footage while they stood at her actual door right now. Jessica called 911, whispering into the phone that someone was trying to break in, and the operator kept her on the line while dispatching officers. She heard footsteps on her porch, slow and deliberate, the wood creaking under weight. Then she heard her doorknob rattle, and the door itself shook in its frame like someone was testing it, pushing gently. The police arrived 6 minutes later, which felt like an hour, and they found no one outside, no footprints, no tool marks on the door. But when they checked Jessica's Ring footage with her, the recordings from that night were corrupted, showing only black screens with timestamp errors. The officers suggested it was a technical glitch and advised her to change her passwords, which she did immediately, using a random 20-character string. 2 nights of silence passed, and Jessica started to think maybe it really was a hacker messing with her, some creep who'd moved on. Then on Saturday night at 2:17 a.m., every camera in her house went active at once. She'd installed 2 more inside after the break-in scare, 1 in her hallway and 1 in her living room, and suddenly her phone was screaming with motion alerts from all 4 cameras simultaneously. Jessica sat up in bed and opened the app, her heart hammering, and cycled through the feeds. The doorbell camera showed her porch empty. The side camera showed her driveway empty. The hallway camera showed her dark corridor leading to the bedroom empty. But the living room camera showed a figure standing in the center of the room, facing the camera directly. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, and impossibly thin, its limbs too long and bent at joints that didn't match human anatomy. Its head was tilted at a 45-degree angle, and where its face should be, there was just a smooth surface that reflected the camera's infrared light like wet plastic. Jessica screamed and dropped her phone, and when she grabbed it again 3 seconds later, the living room feed showed an empty room. She didn't sleep. She sat with her back against her bedroom door until sunrise, clutching a kitchen knife she'd grabbed months ago after the breakup. When morning came, she walked through her house and found every door and window still locked from the inside. No signs of entry, nothing disturbed. But on her coffee table in the living room, there were wet footprints, just 2 of them, impossibly large, the water still glistening. Jessica packed a bag and left her house that day, staying with her parents 40 minutes away, and she called Ring's customer support to cancel her subscription. The support agent pulled up her account and went silent for a long moment before saying, "Ma'am, according to our records, your cameras haven't been online since April 28th. Jessica checked her phone. The app still showed all 4 cameras active, still sending alerts, still recording. She uninstalled the app, and when she tried to reinstall it to prove the agent wrong, her account didn't exist anymore. 3 weeks later, she returned to her house with her father to pack her things and move out, and they found the cameras ripped out of the walls, the wires torn and frayed. She never touched them, and no one had her keys. On the living room floor, written in something dark and sticky, were the words, "Stopped watching." Jessica sold the house at a loss 2 months later, and she's never installed a security camera since. She told me the worst part wasn't the figure or the footprints. It was the feeling that whatever it was had been inside her house the entire time, watching her watch the cameras feeding her exactly what it wanted her to see. A man's Nest thermostat started adjusting itself every night at the same time, always dropping the temperature exactly 9 degrees. And when he checked the access logs, it showed the changes were being made from inside his walls. Story 2. The Rental. Marcus Webb rented a renovated apartment in downtown Austin, Texas in September 2023, a 3rd-floor unit in a converted office building with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. He was a 34-year-old EMT pulling night shifts, and he needed a secure place because he kept odd hours and was rarely home during daylight. The building advertised smart living, which meant everything was connected: lights, locks, thermostat. Even the blinds were automated through a central app. Marcus liked the convenience. He could unlock his door from the hospital, start the AC on his drive home, and set the lights to simulate occupancy when he worked overnight. The first month was perfect. No complaints, good neighbors, and the building system worked flawlessly. Then in mid-October, Marcus started noticing the temperature in his apartment would be freezing when he got home from his 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shifts. He'd set the thermostat to 68 degrees before leaving, but when he walked in at 7:30 a.m., it would read 59 degrees, and the apartment felt like a morgue. He assumed it was a glitch and manually adjusted it, but the next morning, same thing, 59 degrees again. Marcus checked the Nest app's history and saw that every night at 3 a.m., the thermostat was being lowered exactly 9 degrees, from 68 to 59. The app showed the adjustment was made manually, not by a schedule, and the access log listed the device as living room wall panel. His apartment had a smart panel built into the wall near the kitchen, a touch screen that controlled all the systems, and apparently it was changing the temperature by itself. Marcus contacted the building manager, a woman named Claudia, who handled all the tech issues, as she remotely accessed his system. She frowned at her laptop and said the access log showed the wall panel was registering touch inputs at 3 a.m. But that didn't make sense because Marcus was at work and no one else had access. Claudia reset the panel and updated the firmware, promising it was probably just a software bug. 2 nights later, Marcus was at work when his phone buzzed at 3 a.m. with a notification. Thermostat adjusted to 59 degrees Fahrenheit. He opened the app and saw the living room panel had made the change again. And this time, he used his phone to turn on his living room camera, a Nest Cam he'd placed on his bookshelf. The live feed took a moment to load, and showed his dark apartment illuminated only by the glow of the wall panel across the room. As Marcus watched, the panel's screen flickered, and the thermostat setting changed on its own, scrolling down from 68 to 59 in smooth increments. No one was touching it, but the app registered it as a manual input, as if invisible fingers were pressing the screen. Marcus felt a chill run through him, despite being in the warm hospital break room, and he kept watching the camera feed. For 3 minutes, nothing happened. Then the wall panel's screen went black, and Marcus heard a sound through his phone's speaker. It was a low, rhythmic tapping, like fingernails on glass, and it was coming from inside his walls. The tapping moved slowly across the apartment, left to right, following the path of the walls, and Marcus could hear it getting closer to the camera. Then the tapping stopped directly behind the camera's position, and the feed went dark. Marcus tried to refresh it, but the camera showed offline, and when he checked the app, it said the device had been manually disconnected. He left work early, driving 90 in a 65 zone, and burst into his apartment at 4:20 a.m., expecting to find someone inside. The apartment was empty, freezing cold, the thermostat reading 59 degrees. The Nest Cam was still on the bookshelf, plugged in, but when Marcus picked it up, the lens was covered in condensation from the inside, as if it had been submerged in water. He checked the wall panel, and the screen was cracked in a spiderweb pattern radiating from the center, like something had pressed against it from behind. Marcus called Claudia immediately, waking her up, and she came to the apartment at 6 a.m. with the building's maintenance tech. They opened the wall panel, unscrewing it from the electrical box, and when they pulled it away from the wall, all 3 of them recoiled. The space behind the panel was hollow, a gap between the drywall and the original brick, and inside the gap were dozens of dead moths, all arranged in a perfect spiral pattern. The maintenance tech said that was impossible because the building had been sealed during renovation. No pests could get in, and even if they did, they wouldn't arrange themselves. Claudia took photos and said she'd call an exterminator, but Marcus was already packing a bag. He stayed with a coworker for 3 nights, and during that time, his apartment system went haywire. Lights turned on and off in sequences. The blinds opened and closed every hour. The door lock engaged and disengaged 40 times in one night, triggering alerts that woke Marcus constantly. He checked the access logs obsessively, and every single command was listed as coming from living room wall panel, the same panel they'd removed from the wall. On the 4th night, Marcus returned to the apartment with his coworker, a guy named Dev, who didn't believe in paranormal stuff and wanted to see the glitch for himself. They sat in the living room at 2:45 a.m., watching the empty wall where the panel used to be, waiting. At exactly 3 a.m., the lights shut off, plunging them into darkness. Marcus tried the switch, nothing, and Dev pulled out his phone flashlight, sweeping it across the room. The beam landed on the wall where the panel had been, and they both saw it. The spiral of dead moths was glowing faintly, pulsing with a dim bioluminescence. Then the tapping started inside the walls again, louder this time, frantic, and it was coming from every direction at once, surrounding them. Dev ran for the door, and Marcus followed, but the smart lock wouldn't open. The app showed it was secured from inside, a setting that didn't exist. Marcus physically kicked the door near the lock, splintering the frame, and they burst into the hallway, gasping. Behind them, inside the apartment, they heard the thermostat chime as it adjusted itself, and Marcus's phone showed a notification. Thermostat adjusted to 32 degrees Fahrenheit. The building manager let Marcus break his lease the next day, no penalties, after he showed her the videos and access logs. Claudia admitted there had been 3 previous tenants in that unit over the past 2 years, all of whom left within months, but she claimed they never said why. Marcus moved to a house with no smart technology, just basic electricity and mechanical locks. He told me the tapping still happens sometimes, late at night, but now it comes from his phone when it's charging, a soft rhythmic sound against the knit stand. He's too afraid to check what's causing it. If you're still watching, you're braver than most people, because the next story is the one that kept me awake last night. Story 3. The monitor. A baby monitor started showing a second crib in the corner of the nursery, and every night, the figure standing over it got closer to the real crib. Emily Navarro installed a Nanit baby monitor above her daughter's crib in February 2024, a week after bringing 6-month-old Sophia home from the hospital, following a surgery for a heart defect. She was a 31-year-old graphic designer working freelance from home in Sacramento, California, and her husband David was a pilot who was gone 4 days a week. Emily was terrified of SIDS. Sophia's medical issues made her high risk, and the Nanit had breathing detection, temperature sensors, and a crystal-clear night vision camera that let Emily watch every breath. For 2 months, Emily slept with her phone on the pillow next to her, checking the monitor feed every time Sophia made a sound, obsessively watching the green line that tracked her breathing. David told her she was going to drive herself crazy, but Emily couldn't help it. She'd already almost lost Sophia once. In late April, Emily was watching the monitor at 2:30 a.m. when she noticed something in the corner of the screen that she'd never seen before. It looked like the edge of another crib, just barely visible in the top right corner, as if the camera angle had shifted slightly. Emily sat up and opened the full screen view, zooming in on that corner, and yes, there was definitely a second crib rail visible, white wood, identical to Sophia's. But Sophia's nursery only had 1 crib. Emily had painted that room herself, and there was nothing in that corner except a rocking chair. She got out of bed and walked down the hall to the nursery, pushing the door open slowly, not wanting to wake Sophia. The room was exactly as it should be. 1 crib in the center, rocking chair in the corner, soft pink walls, nothing else. Emily checked the monitor from inside the room, tilting her head to match the camera's angle, and the second crib wasn't visible to her naked eye. She went back to bed and looked at the phone feed again, and the second crib was still there in the corner of the screen, unmistakable. Emily took a screenshot and sent it to David with the message, "Do you see a second crib in this photo?" David responded 5 minutes later. "Top right? Yeah, weird angle glitch. Check the camera mount." Emily tried to convince herself it was just a distortion. Maybe the wide-angle lens was warping the image. But the next night, the second crib was larger on the screen, more of it visible, as if the camera had zoomed in on that corner. And inside the second crib, there was a shape, a small bundle of blankets, exactly like how Sophia was swaddled. Emily's breath caught in her throat, and she zoomed in as far as the app allowed, but the resolution turned grainy, making it impossible to see details. She watched for 10 minutes, and the bundle didn't move, but Sophia, in the real crib in the center of the frame, shifted and made a small sound. Emily ran to the nursery again, and the corner was empty. Just the chair, no second crib, no blankets. She picked up Sophia and held her, feeling her daughter's heartbeat against her chest, and whispered, "You're okay, Mommy's here." The next day, Emily called Nanit support and explained the issue, describing it as a visual artifact because she didn't want to sound insane. The support tech remotely accessed her camera and said everything looked normal on his end, and he suggested restarting the device. Emily restarted it, and for one night, the second crib was gone. The monitor showed only Sophia's crib in a normal, empty room. But the following night, the second crib was back, and this time, there was a figure standing next to it. It was tall and obscured by the camera's night vision grain, but Emily could see it was shaped like a person, standing motionless, facing the bundle in the second crib. Emily's heart felt like it was going to explode, and she called David, who was in a hotel in Denver, and sobbed into the phone, "There's someone in her room." David stayed on the line while Emily crept to the nursery with a baseball bat, her hands shaking so hard she could barely grip it. She turned on the light, and the room was empty. Sophia was asleep, peaceful. The monitor's camera was mounted above the crib, as always. But when Emily checked the phone feed, the figure was still there in the night vision mode, standing over the second crib, and now its head was turned slightly, as if it was looking toward Sophia's real crib. David told her to take Sophia and leave the house immediately, and Emily did, grabbing her daughter, her keys, and her phone, and driving to her mother's house 20 minutes away. She didn't go back for 3 days, and David flew home early to be with her. When they returned to the house together, David unscrewed the Nanit monitor from the ceiling mount and examined it, checking for hacks or tampering. The device looked normal, but when David powered it on and checked the live feed on his phone, he went pale. Emily asked what was wrong, and David turned the phone toward her, showing the nursery feed. The second crib was gone, and the figure was gone, but in the center of the screen, standing directly under where the camera was mounted, looking up at the lens, was a child. It was small, maybe toddler-sized, wearing old-fashioned pajamas, and its face was blurred, not by motion or grain, but as if the features themselves were shifting, unstable. Emily grabbed the phone and threw it across the room, the screen cracking against the wall. David climbed on a chair and ripped the Nanit camera off the ceiling, severing the mount and pulling the power cord out of the wall with a violent yank. They threw the device in the outdoor trash can and moved Sophia's crib into their bedroom that night. But at 3 a.m., Emily's phone buzzed with a notification from the Nanit app. Motion detected in Sophia's room. She opened the app, hands shaking, and the camera was still broadcasting, even though it was in the trash can outside, unplugged. The feed showed the inside of the nursery, the empty crib, and standing in the doorway, backlit by the hallway light, was the figure. It was inside their house. Emily screamed, and David grabbed Sophia from the bassinet they'd set up in their room, and they ran out the front door in their pajamas, getting in the car and driving. Emily called 911 from the car, and police met them at a gas station 3 miles away, then escorted them back to the house to do a sweep. The officers found no one inside, no signs of entry, and when they checked the nursery, the room was untouched. David showed them the Nanit in the trash can, and one officer pulled it out and examined it, noting it was unplugged and the lens was cracked. The officer said there was no way it could be broadcasting, and he suggested Emily's phone had cached an old video that triggered a false notification. Emily showed him the app, and the live feed was now displaying a black screen with an error message: camera offline. The timestamp on the cached video showed it was recorded at 3:02 a.m. that night, exactly when she received the notification, which meant it couldn't have been old footage. David demanded to see the Nanit's internal storage, but the officer said he was unqualified to do digital forensics and recommended they contact Nanit's corporate team. Emily and David stayed in a hotel for a week, and during that time, Emily received 3 more notifications from the Nanit app, all showing motion in the nursery, all timestamped in the middle of the night. She deleted the app, but it reinstalled itself twice, appearing back on her phone with all her account data intact. Finally, David factory reset Emily's phone, and the app disappeared for good. They moved out of that house in June, selling it to a young couple who seemed thrilled with the smart nursery setup. Emily wanted to warn them, but David convinced her they'd sound insane, and maybe it was tied to Sophia specifically, given her medical history and the stress Emily had been under. 3 months later, Emily got a message on a local parenting Facebook group from a woman she didn't know. The message said, "You used to live on Maple Grove Court, right? I bought your house. Did you ever have problems with the Nanit camera?" Emily's blood went cold, and she didn't respond. She just blocked the woman and left the group. But 2 weeks after that, the woman found her personal Instagram and sent a photo with no caption. The photo showed a baby monitor feed, and in the corner of the screen was a second crib, and standing between both cribs was the figure, its head tilted, facing the camera. Emily blocked her again and made her account private, and she's never used a baby monitor since. Sophia is 18 months old now, healthy, and Emily sleeps with her bedroom door open, so she can hear any sound from the nursery down the hall. She told me the worst part wasn't the figure or the second crib. It was the feeling that something had been watching Sophia long before they ever installed the camera, and the monitor didn't create the danger, it just made it visible. Emily still has nightmares about the blurred face of the child in the feed, and sometimes when she's falling asleep, she hears a soft rhythmic sound, like a camera's focusing mechanism, clicking in the dark. 3 people installed cameras to protect themselves, and all 3 found that some things don't want to be seen. They want to see you. Jessica's house was occupied by something that controlled her feeds. Marcus's apartment had something living in the walls that manipulated his system, and Emily's baby monitor showed a reality that existed parallel to her own. The common thread is that they all gave these systems access to their most private spaces, and something else used that access to reach back. Jessica told me she still gets Ring notifications sometimes, even though she deleted her account. Little buzzes on her phone at 3 a.m. with no app to open. Marcus's phone still taps against the knit stand, a rhythm that matches the pattern from his apartment walls. And Emily's daughter, Sophia, sometimes stares at empty corners of rooms and laughs, reaching her tiny hands towards something her mother can't see. I don't know what these things are, if they're glitches in reality, digital ghosts, or something older that learned to use our technology, but I know they're not done. If you have security cameras, baby monitors, or smart home devices, ask yourself this: are you watching them, or are they watching you? And if you ever see something in the feed that isn't there in real life, don't try to investigate it. Don't adjust the camera angle to get a better view. And for the love of everything, don't keep watching. Some doors are better left closed, even the digital ones. If this video made you check your camera feeds, hit the like button so I know you're paying attention, because this channel is brand new and I need your help to grow. Drop a comment telling me which story scared you the most, or better yet, if you've ever had something weird happen with your own security system. Share it below, because I read every single comment. And if you want to hear more stories like this, Stories that'll make you rethink the technology you trust. Hit that subscribe button, because I'm just getting started. There are more stories out there, more people who've seen things they can't explain, and I'm going to find them. Stay safe, keep your doors locked, and maybe tonight, unplug the camera in your bedroom, just to be sure.